You're listening to The Blueprint with respected entrepreneur and journalist Brandon Armand. He's talking with other entrepreneurs, professionals, and community leaders about the hurdles they've encountered in their careers, the lessons they've learned, and their blueprint for success. And now, here's your host, Brandon Armand.
He's an entrepreneur, a social media influencer, and he's the creator of the famous BAMM wings. We're here with Greg Tillery, the owner of WeDat'sFoodTruckLLC Chicken and Shrimp. Greg, thank you for joining us today.
Man, thank you for having me.
So, man, we're here just to talk to you a little bit about the blueprint, your blueprint for success. So let's start from the beginning. First of all, for people who may not know you, now I don't know anybody in New Orleans who does not know Greg Tillery and who does not know WeDat's, but for anybody who may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Greg Tillery, born and raised in New Orleans, 7th Ward to be exact. I'm a graduate of Edna Carr High School. From Edna Carr, I wound up going to Tuskegee University, whereas I majored in sales and marketing. From that, I landed an internship with Nike, which wound up landing me an internship with which wound up landing me a job with Frito-Lay, which helped me to get the funds that I needed to invest in WeDat food truck. And from the food truck, as we go along in our interview and our conversation, I'll be able to tell you in the expansion of the restaurants.
So you started with Frito-Lay and these big companies,
Yep.
And then went to get your food truck eventually. You're from New Orleans, born and raised from New Orleans. You went to Who Dat Nation. You went to Edna Carr High School.
Yes.
Tell us about your experience growing up just as a young man here in New Orleans, and how did that affect you and make you who you are today?
Man, I tell people all the time, man, it's no other city like New Orleans. A lot of the trials and tribulations that you have to experience or that you experience being here, a lot of the devastation that we experienced, Hurricane Katrina, just a lot of different things, that you go through here that kind of, molds you to be the person that, that everybody is, especially me. You get that resiliency. It's like if you can make it in New Orleans, you can make it anywhere. So, it just produces, and I tell people all the time, New Orleans produces some of the greatest talent in the world that the world has seen. You got a PJ Morton, you got Trombone Shorty, you got Cash Money, you got No Limit. We just great people. You got going back to Louis Armstrong. So, it's just, we just great people, man. And it's just, I love my city. I love my city with all my heart. And it's just, like I say, man, you just get that resiliency, man, just being from here, just going through the daily life struggles and life experiences.
Yeah, I mean, we are resilient people, and everybody that you named, and there's so many more, and the world gets to share all of those people with us here in New Orleans, and the world is getting to share you as well.
Right.
You are a social media influencer. You are around the country. People are saying we can't wait until WeDat's Chicken and Shrimp comes to my city, to my hometown. Man, how does that make you feel? I mean, when you're going down and you're seeing, these comments and people wanting you, how does that make you feel?
You know what, bro? The closer I get in my faith, sometimes, a lot of times it feels surreal, but I mean, I feel like this is exactly what God wants to give to me. Like, why not have a WeDat's everywhere? Why not people all over the world know who I am and what it is that I bring and the love that I bring? I'm just trying to do something different, using my platform and the business that I've been blessed with, man. So, it's very, surreal, man. A lot of times I'm just like, man, this is crazy when people are like, man, can you bring this to New Zealand or, they're in other countries. Don't even talk about, being in the United States. You talk about people being in other countries that's following the page and telling me, man, you need to bring it out here. So, I mean, I'm just blessed, man. I remember it was a point in time when I was on that food truck, but nobody knew who I was, but that, and, it was a point in time where I was like, man, God, what am I doing? Why did I take all the money that I saved up to invest and buy this food truck, and I just can remember him just telling me, as I'm just on my knees inside of my food truck with my truck just broken down, tears rolling down my eyes, looking up and just hearing him say, just be patient. And I just remember just getting that calm spirit and then just picking myself up and going forward, man. And, you know, just to see the way everything has manifest now is just absolutely amazing, to be completely honest.
So you're a spiritual person. You obviously believe in God. You've talked about him a lot just in this past time. How do you stay humbled with all the success that's coming around? Because it's so easy to get caught up to believe your own press clippings, right? And before you know it, you got this big head, and that happens to so many people. But that hasn't happened to you, and I think people see that, which is why people love your spirit. But how do you stay humble?
Because I'm constantly being humbled every day. So I pay attention to the signs. I pay attention to different things that's happening. I've lost it all 2 or 3 times before. And I know that at any given moment, it can all be taken away from me. And I just rather just stay low to the ground. And I don't think that I'm better than anybody else. And I don't look at anybody else like they better than anybody else. You know, whether you be a quote unquote celebrity or not, what classifies you as being a celebrity? A lot of people knowing you. You have the amount of money that you have in your bank account. I don't get caught up in all of that stuff, man. I just stay low. You know, I feel like God never lets me get too high. He never lets me get too low. So he keeps me right in the middle, and that's just where I stay at, man.
Yeah, and that's important to say that. Stay there, because when you get too high, God will bring you back down, and what you don't want for him to be the one to do so, because the higher you get and he brings you down, that's the harder you're going to fall. But keep being like you are, and that's why people love you, man, and that's why people like you, and that's why you are successful. So we're going to talk a little bit more. We're here with Gregoire Tillery, the owner of WeDat's Chicken and Shrimp, 3 locations here in New Orleans. When we come back, we're going to talk about his challenges and some of the struggles that he went through to get to where he is today. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Blueprint with Brandon Armand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original. Welcome back to The Blueprint. Here's your host, Brandon Armand.
All right, y'all, we are back with The Blueprint. We're talking with Gregoire Tillery. Now, when we went to break, we were talking about your name is Gregoire Tillery. Most people don't know that.
Right.
But Gregoire, where did that come from?
So my dad's name is Gregory. Okay. And I guess when it was naming us, my mom didn't want me to be a Gregory Jr., so Gregoire is the closest thing to that. Is actually French for Gregory. So, and we from New Orleans, so you know how that go, the whole Creole thing. So, but yeah, my name is Gregoire, and I got so many different nicknames. I can remember going to car. I remember a good friend of mine, John DeCoux, played running back at Carr back when I first got there, and me starting playing on the football team, and I remember him asking me, man, what's your name? And me being a freshman, I'm from the 7th Ward. I'm already coming across the river, so it's foreign land to me anyways. And so I'm like, man, my name Gregoire. He's like, nah, we ain't gonna call you that. He's like, what your last name is? I'm like, Tillery. He was like, man, we gonna call you G-Till. You know what I'm saying? So G-Till is a nickname that I got when I was in high school, which wound up following me to Tuskegee, because it was so many people, believe it or not, that graduated with me from Etna Carr that went to Tuskegee. So when I first got to Tuskegee, New Orleans resonates with New Orleans. So I hung with my New Orleans people before, I started intertwining with other people. But, and then word on campus wound up getting around to G-Till, and then G-Till kind of led into corporate America. And, so now when I was at Frito-Lay, I was killing it, and, that was my nickname, G-Till, so, and then once I got the food truck, everybody called me WeDat, or they called me the Chicken Man, but yeah, man, people even be like, the first thing that they see or hear when they see me or meet me, man, where the chicken at? You know what I'm saying? So, I answer to it all, but my name is Gregoire. And, one of the things that I do want to do, and my dream is, I aspire to be like the late, great Al Copeland. And, you know, Al Copeland, the founder of Popeyes, you know, and Copeland's, you know, which is kind of more like a fine dining kind of thing. And that's kind of what I want to eventually venture off into, as having, you know, being able to have, you know, steaks, lobster, you know, all that kind of stuff. Somewhere where you can put on a suit, very nice, very elegant.
The good thing is, though, Greg, you have a vision.
Yeah.
You got a vision, and you know, the Bible says, "My people will perish if they don't have vision."
Yes.
And the reason why a lot of people, you know, they try to be successful, and they work towards it, but they don't sit down and first establish that vision.
Right.
How has that impacted you, having this vision? And then what do you do when that vision doesn't seem to be coming to pass?
So, and then that kind of ties in what I was saying, like just tied in with the name, because it just hit me that, like, when I do decide, if I'm blessed to be able to venture off into the fine dining restaurant, I would like to name it Gregoire's. So, you know, and you get to talking about vision, you get to talking about life, you get to talking about things that happen. You don't understand why it's happening at the moment, but then as you go through life, things start to click for you. And I'm just like, man, like everything in my life that I've experienced, everything in my life that I went through, at that moment in time, I did not understand it, but now it all makes sense because everything in your life is already written anyways. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, you know, I'm a visionary. You know, I always do a lot of thinking. I isolate myself a lot. My mind is always turning. I can't really focus on one thing. Like inside of my business right now, I got about 5 or 6 things going on at one time. And before I can get those things taken care of, I'm still thinking about other things. It's just, that's just the way my mind, that's just the way that my mind, you know, just runs. Yeah. So I just thank God for that gift, you know, and being able to be able to process things and understand things and see things before it kind of happens.
You know, when did you start the food truck? In
2013.
2013.
Yeah.
Right now, we're at the beginning of 2018. I'm sorry, 2019.
Yeah.
Time is flying by.
Flying.
How did you gain so much success nationwide in such a short amount of time? Of course, I know that it's God.
Yeah.
But faith without works is dead. God does the natural, the super, you do the natural.
Right.
What did you do to do the natural?
Man, you know, just treating people right. I just do right by people, man. I'm just over the top with customer service, over the top with pleasing people. That's, you know, I think a gift and a curse for me. You know, I lead with this, you know, a lot of times. So
this meaning your heart.
Meaning my heart. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of times I just do the things. People don't have to ask me to do different things. I just do it because I know it's the right thing to do. So with a lot of those situations, I was just presented with opportunities that helped me to just flourish and blow up.
Mm-hmm. Do you think your marketing background has helped you in any way with that as well?
Most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely. I'm always thinking about marketing, always thinking about ways I can grow it. I am the type of person where I'm looking at a movie and I'm paying attention to the product placement in the movie. I pay attention to the details. I understand the details. Yeah. So, and the details is what matters. Yeah. And you know, that's just how I am. I just always thinking, always just visualizing things in my mind. So, you know, like I said, that's a gift. Just very, very much blessed with that.
A gift and a blessing. You're doing the natural, God's doing the super, and that's why you're getting the supernatural blessings that you're getting. And you've been through some things and through some struggles that you've told me about before, but you know what? We're gonna let the rest of the world know about those things that you've been through. Y'all, we're talking with Gregoire Tillery, G-Till, Mr. WeDat, the chicken man, and whatever else you want to call him. He has so many titles and wears so many hats, and we'll be right back talking with him.
You're listening to The Blueprint with Brandon Armand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original. Welcome back to The Blueprint. Here's your host, Brandon Armand.
All right, guys, we are back talking with Gregoire Tillery, the owner of That's Chicken and Shrimp. He's talked to us a little bit about, you know, his background, but we want to get into you with WeDat right now. Mm-hmm. So you started off on a food truck,
Yep.
and now you have 3 locations around the city. Just opened one up in Marrero, have one on Canal, and you have one in Gentilly.
Yes.
How did you go from the food truck to your brick and mortar?
I can remember the Bayou Classic before I opened up the food truck. You know, to be honest with you, first of all, I had one fryer, one stovetop, and no AC on my food truck, all right? And when you get to having people and you get to serving 50 to 60 people off of a truck, and you doing all of that off of one fryer and a stovetop, I'm like, you know what, like we're growing. Yeah. And this is per day. So, you know, I came across, so the real story, what people don't know is I actually I was approached by a gentleman who had a hot dog stand. This hot dog, it was like a hot dog restaurant. It's right there off of Barone Street, right? And if you pass by Barone Street, right across the street from the Roosevelt, you'll see that this cell phone shop right now is painted purple and white. So I was actually presented by this gentleman that told me, hey, look, I have an opportunity for you to come over here. My hot dog stand is not doing what it needs to do. You can take over this, you can sublease this. I'm like, cool. So I go in there, I invest a bunch of money, try to fix it up, do some different things to it, you know, and he's giving me the runaround with, you know, the paperwork and different things like that. With that being said, I get approached by somebody that, you know, hangs out, is right next to a bar. At the time, the hot dog stand was right next to a bar, which that bar is still there, but we were serving similar foods, and we all had the same kind of landlord. So I was approached by a lady who, you know, went to this bar every day, you know, and she was telling me, hey, look, I see you coming in and doing a bunch of work. You seem like a really good person. You probably need to do your research. I don't think that the landlord is going to approve you coming into this building. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I can remember that was right before Thanksgiving of 2012. I mean, right before the Thanksgiving of 2014, we was going into 15. Okay. And I'm like, bro, like what's going on? I'm on the phone with him, on the phone, and he's like, we on the phone for 2 hours. That's the day before Thanksgiving. I'm like, yo, what is going on? And he giving me the runaround, so I'm like, all right, cool. Wind up calling the landlord myself and saying, he wound up getting his number, and he wound up basically telling me, hey, look, you're not gonna get this building. I don't know what you agreed with whoever such and such. Wow. 'Cause I won't name, and I won't put his name out there, but I don't know what you agreed with such and such, but you won't be able to come in here. And I'm like, man, I just invested all this money in here. So, boom, it wound up coming out or whatever, because I told him, I'm like, look, I already talked to the landlord. He already told me what the deal is. Like, now I need my money back. Right. But in the mix of it, I done already posted on social media, posted on Facebook.
You let the world know.
Let the world know. And I'm just like, Lord, man, what am I gonna do? Never forget that Sunday, wound up going to church. I go to Celebration Church right there on L-Line, and I remember my pastor doing a sermon, and it was just basically about dealing with different things and holding on to stuff. And when different things happen in your life, you can do 2 things. You can get better or you can get bitter. It's your choice. And I was like, right there, when I was listening to him saying, I'm like, you know what? Scratch this. I don't care. I'm not worrying about it. I'm gonna find something else. In that whole process of me dealing with him, with, you know, still you know, doing renovation and stuff like that, before I had even signed with the guy with the restaurant on Barone Street, I still was calling realtors and still was dealing with people and, you know, visiting buildings. Well, literally that Monday after that sermon in church, I got a call from my landlord now on Canal Street. He was like, yeah, this is such and such. I won't name his name. He don't like to, he don't like anybody to know whatever his name and stuff. But it's like, hey, this is such and such. I was out of the country. I thought I got your voicemail. Did you want to see the building? I said, yes, of course. He showed me the building. This was before any of those condominiums was over there. This was before anything was going on that side of Canal Street. Yeah. This is before they even start putting up Christmas decorations on that side because they used to stop by the joy. Yeah. So it was just me and the people that was next to me or whatever the case may be. Went in there, saw it. It was gutted out completely. It had so much work that needed to be done. He asked me what you thought about it. I knew in my heart right there, I said, I'll take it. And that's how I landed the building on Canal Street.
Your first brick and mortar location, going from the food truck to Canal Street.
Blessings.
And so from there, then you went from Canal Street
to Gentilly,
and then now to Marrero. We got to take a break.
Yep.
But
we got to pay them bills.
We got to pay them bills. But when we come back, man, there's a story that you have where you were facing death. And it was because of everything that you had. And I think that kind of made you come back a little bit. We'll talk about that when we come back.
You're listening to The Blueprint with Brandon Armand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original. Welcome back to The Blueprint. Here's your host, Brandon Armand.
Y'all, we're back with Greg Tillery. He's the owner of WeDat'sFoodTruckLLC Chicken and Shrimp, 3 locations here in New Orleans. Before we left, you were telling us how you went from the food truck in 2013 to now having 3 brick and mortar locations around the city. And that's been some challenges that you've gone through. You've overcome those challenges. But man, you have a story about how you were faced with probably one of the most challenging parts of your life thus far. Tell us about that.
That goes to when we first brought up the humbling situations. I can remember it was one Sunday, and this is like how when you say God will always bring you back to him. I can remember being out, having a good time at a party one Saturday night. And I'll never forget, the first thing that came to my mind is like, I looked at my watch, it was probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, you know what? I said, I'm gonna sleep in tomorrow. I'm not gonna go to church. I was supposed to be at church at 10 o'clock. And it's the reason why I'm saying the time right now. So I was supposed to be at church at 10 o'clock. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna sleep in, I'm tired, I'm having a good time. Boom. So wind up finish having a good time, partying, get home, go to sleep, immediately woke up at 10 a.m. when I was supposed to be in church. And at 10:02, I heard this big, like a big vase fall on the ground, right? For one, I didn't have a vase in my house. For 2, I had carpet. I look up, and I stay on the 3rd floor. I won't mention the apartment complex that I stayed in. I stayed on the 3rd floor, and it was a gentleman kicking in my door at the time. Now, mind you, it's Sunday at 10, it's 10, it's broad daylight. Kicks in my door, I'm just waking up. I look, I'm on the 3rd floor. I'm like, so you had to climb up off of someone else's balcony to get to my balcony. Kicks in my door. When he kicks in the door, I immediately run to him. And I opened up the door because I had like blinders on it or whatever. And I'm trying to see what's going on. I opened up the door and I'm like, man, what are you doing? Boom. So I closed the door back. As I'm closing the door back, and thank God when he kicked it, he fell back. So he didn't kick it and come through. He kicked it and then fell back. So then I run out the front door. As I'm running out the front door, it's somebody else waiting right there with a mask on.
Wow.
With a handgun with a banana clip on it.
Wow.
Just waiting for me. So I immediately come back in the house and I just look, I drop down to my knees and I just look at these two dudes with the pistols pointed in my face. And I'm just staring down the barrel of these guns. And man, bro, like, it's like my life flashed before my eyes, and the only thing that I can think about was my nephew at the time. My sister was pregnant with my nephew at the time, and I just kept on telling him, like, look, bro, like, I got a nephew, like, please, like, he about to be born, man. I'm like, you can take anything, you can have whatever. But it was one of those situations whereas I was still growing, still trying to find myself like we all are, trying to wear the fake jewelry and all this and all that. I was on a food truck. I had like a pocket full of ones, just trying to be something that I'm not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just going through those phases of growing up.
That, like you said, that we all
went through.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the dude who kicked in my door, his mask came off. Being in New Orleans, being from New Orleans, situations like that, you don't typically make it out of those situations.
Yeah.
And I knew right then and there it was by the grace of God that he spared my life.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is that, me being the dude that I am, once they left, because they took what they had and they left. Like they took what I had and then they left. I'm chilling, I'm just waiting, trying to calm myself down and putting on my clothes, brushing my teeth, and I can remember looking in the mirror and saying, man, this is gonna be a very long day. So, and then, the funny thing about it is that, make a long story short, right then and there, I was humbled. Yeah. And that day right there forever changed my life. And you ask me what I do on a Sunday, you're gonna always hear me say, I went to church. Yeah. And I don't miss church. Yeah. Because every Sunday of my life, I think about that situation.
Sunday when you did. And it was because God knew he had more for you.
More in store for me.
More in store for you. And so, it wasn't your time, but it was humbling for you, as you said, and you learned from it. And hopefully, there are a lot of people out there, younger people, older people, who are hearing this message. And your story, hopefully, will humble someone else to keep going. We got to go to commercial break. We're talking with Greg Tillery. He's the owner of We Dat Chicken and Shrimp. We're going to talk with him a little bit more about his blueprint for success and where he is today and then where he's going. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Blueprint with Brandon Armand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original. Welcome back to The Blueprint. Here's your host, Brandon Armand.
All right, y'all, we're back with The Blueprint. We're talking with Greg Tillery, the owner of We Dat's Chicken and Shrimp. Greg, you just, told us a little bit about your background, gave us a little bit about your struggles and some of the hurdles that you had to overcome, even being faced at gunpoint and robbed and almost killed. Actually, probably should have been killed, but God had more in store for you, and that's why you've been so successful. Let's talk about the next phase of your life. in the next phase of WeDat and everything else that you may have that's coming up. You are a visionary, as we talked about earlier, and I know that there's a lot of things that's spinning in your mind. I'm a visionary, right? So I can only, I mean, I know exactly how your mind works and everything that's going on, and it's hard to kind of tackle some of that stuff. But, and you know what, and I want to share this with you and with everyone else too. You know, one of the things that my pastor, R.C. Blake, said one time when I was in church, and it stuck with me. He said, you know, just because God gives you a vision doesn't always mean that you need to act on it at that time. Yeah. Sometimes he gives you the vision so that you know the steps that you need to take to prepare for it. Yes, sir. And I know that you know that, and so you have so many things that you're thinking about in the future. What is the future for you and for WeDat?
So immediately, I'll say short term, I just purchased another food truck. So I have a friend of mine that actually will be here on tonight. So I purchased a food truck. My guy, Troy Polly, who's out there in Kentucky, does this for a living, builds and, you know, designs food trucks. So he's gonna be driving it down tonight for me. But once I get the truck, I'm going to add that component onto the streets during the Mardi Gras season, and then immediately after Mardi Gras, I'm taking it, doing a cross-country trip from LA to LA, so Louisiana to Los Angeles.
So WeDat is going back on the road. First of all, before we talk about WeDat going on the road, you're going back to the food truck.
I'm going back
taking it back to where it started.
Yeah.
Why? How did that concept come about?
Man, because so many people want to get to WeDat and they can't. So this is going to be an opportunity for me to bring it to them. And on top of that, you know, I have aspirations and dreams of franchising one day and having WeDat in every city across the country. So this is just going to be a way for people to, one, taste the food, and two, for us to get the exposure in those individual cities that we potentially want to put a WeDat in.
So you're taking WeDat on the roads. Who Dat Nation, don't get jealous.
Who dat?
We're not losing them. We're just sharing him.
That's it.
With everybody else. And so what does that trip look like from LA to LA, and how did that come to pass?
So right now we're putting together the blueprint for it. Yeah. I know for sure Texas, we're going to stop in Houston, try San Antonio, Austin, Dallas. You know, I know we're gonna stop in those particular cities. I'm not really too familiar with out west. You know, those states in between, outside of Texas. But I know Phoenix, will stop in Phoenix. But just really all the major cities across, you know, out west, headed to LA.
And you know, that's the way the vision works. You know, you see it.
Yep.
And then you have to go back, and then you have to set it.
The details.
And set the details of it and the benchmarks. And that's what you're doing. But you also just signed an agreement with the New Orleans Pelicans.
Right.
What's that about?
Shout out to the Pels.
Shout out to the Pelicans.
Shout out to my brother Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean.
Shout out to my bro, man. I love you to death, bro.
We're gonna miss him.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Big time. AD actually has been supporting me since I was on the food truck. If you go on AD page, back in 2015, you'll see a picture of our wings on his page. Wow. Yeah, man. Back in 2015, man. That's my bro. I love him to death, man. I'm really gonna miss him. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll connect in other cities.
Yeah, and as you say, y'all will connect in other cities, and the Pelicans will continue to be strong. That's our team. Yeah. How did you make that connection with them, or what is the connection that's going on with them?
So I got a bunch of friends like my boy Chase, who works for the Pels. You know, he's over a lot of stuff. He actually, back when I was on the food truck, showed up to the food truck, shirt and tie, ordering wings. So, and we just kind of developed relationship. My boy Gerald, who's one of the reps right now, wound up developing a relationship with him. He transferred. He's originally from Detroit. I have ties to Detroit too. My father actually is from Detroit, moved down to New Orleans. That's where he met my mom, so I have ties too. So, and then we pledged the same fraternity as well, Kappa Alpha Psi. So, you know, just wound up building that relationship with him. And, you know, I got season tickets to the Pels. Yeah. You know, so, I mean, I'm at every game, and, you know, that's my dream eventually, to be in the arena and to be in the Superdome. And to be in the casino, you know, and to be in the airport. Like, that's my dream. So it just God and relationships, man, and people just giving me an opportunity and believing in the brand. And so we have a sponsorship deal, whereas and we do advertising with them. So during their home games, we get 2 to 3 commercials that's played on Fox, and it reaches from New Orleans. I've had people all the way in Alabama that have seen the commercial. And during the game, we have a live flow, whereas you'll see our logo come down when the game flow comes down, saying the scores.
We that will be we that is everywhere. Listen, blessings, y'all get ready, because we can remember. We're gonna be able to say we remember when We That was on the food truck and we saw it before everybody else. We have one more break to get to pay those bills, as you said earlier. But when we come back, we will talk with Greg about the blueprint to success.
You're listening to The Blueprint with Brandon Armand. We'll be right back. You're listening to a BAMM Network original. Welcome back to The Blueprint. Here's your host, Brandon Armand.
All right, y'all, we're back with The Blueprint, talking with Greg Tillery. He's the owner of We Dat Chicken and Shrimp. You know, Greg, as we wrap up, we've had a great time talking with you.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, man. A lot of people, you know We Dat. They want to know your story. They want to hear your story. So we're glad that you're telling it to us. But talk to us about your blueprint for success. You've been through a lot. What has been your blueprint for success and continues to be so?
I'll tell you this, man. Everybody, you know, when they meet me for the first time, they're always saying, chef this, chef that. I don't have a culinary background. So, you know, I just have the sales and marketing side, the business aspect of it. But even in business, you know, shout out to my good friend, Elliot Foreman, who I use his POS merchant system, Bonita Payments, to process all of my credit card transactions. But he's kind of like a mentor for me as well. You know, he always tell me this all the time. He say, you know, Greg, tuition isn't free. You got to pay for it. Yeah. And I've made a lot of mistakes, learning a lot, had hired a lot of people that was supposed to be this consultant, that consultant, was supposed to help me do this, do that, and things didn't go the way it was supposed to, you know, the way I thought it was gonna go. You know, a lot of people used me, a lot of people abused me, you know, just made a lot of mistakes. And I'm saying all of that, you know, just for everybody that's listening, because, you know, every day I strive to do better. Every day I'm learning something. I don't know it all, but I never give up. And even when I'm dealing with this audit or that audit, or this lawsuit might be going on, or that, because of, you know, incidents that may happen at the business, I'm fully responsible for that. It's just, I look at it as God just preparing me. You make these small mistakes now, so that when I really want to elevate you and it's really time for you to elevate, you can handle it. And the whole saying of, you know, he never puts more on you than you can handle is, you know, that's all the way true, because everything that you go through, you being prepared for that next level, whatever that may be that you're dealing with at the time. So I just tell people, my blueprint is taking care of people, treating people right. I know what I'm good at. I'm good at taking care of people, making sure they creating experiences, creating vibes. I love to cater to people. That's what I do. You know, but I would tell people, if you don't know something, don't be afraid to ask. I remember a long time ago, your teacher used to say, no question is a stupid question. That's seriously. You know, you take that through life. I mean, I ask questions. I want to know it all. And you know, you get people that are as smart as you or smarter, and be open to feedback. You know, be teachable. You know, and just, you know, pray about everything. You know, and when it's right and when the timing is right, it'll be right. So, but you're gonna make mistakes. Nobody has an overnight success. It may seem to a lot of people that, dang, man, I just saw you on the food truck. You know, well, that was almost 6 years ago. You know, and now you got all these locations, man. It's just going through it, you know, investing in myself, you know, spending that tuition, you know, on those countless mistakes that I made that I wish I wouldn't have made. But then, you know, just standing in the gap and just staying strong and just having that resiliency of not giving up no matter what it is.
And I think that's one of the major keys as well, that to be resilient.
You got to be resilient.
Have that resiliency and not giving up, because it's never going to be easy.
Never.
And you're always in. So, you know, there are a lot of people who at the first sign of struggle, at the first rejection or downfall,
they give up.
They give up.
But
you can't do that. And as you said, learn from your mistakes, and work to not repeat those same mistakes, because the Bible says that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you have to look at those challenges and look at those outcomes, and no matter what happened, know that it's all working together. What I've learned is when something doesn't go my way, I then go back, especially when I know I've prayed about it, when I know I've done everything I'm supposed to do, I now sit back and say, all right, God, what do you want me to get out of this?
Yep.
It didn't go the way I wanted, but I know it went the way that you wanted it.
Because everything is already written. It happens the way it's supposed to happen. And we want it to happen on our time, but it's not our time. It's on his time.
Exactly.
So.
And it's always better when it happens on his time.
It is.
And then we want it quickly.
Right.
But it's always better when it comes out of the oven rather than the microwave.
Okay. And we live in a microwave generation.
Exactly.
But I can tell you this, people don't understand these last few years, the trials and tribulations that I've went through, the things that I've dealt with in private. Yeah. You know, the isolation, the tears, the frustration, the rejection, the disappointments, the losses, just, they don't understand that. Yeah. But boom, out the gates 2019, and it's blessings. Shout out to Rouse's. We launched our seasoning. Yeah. We just signed a deal in all of the Rouse's.
That's a blessing.
Man, that is absolutely amazing. Yeah. You know, the deal with the Pelicans, you know, the food truck. I mean, it's just grateful. The new West Bank location. Shout out to the West Bank. And shout out to the city of New Orleans.
And the thing about it, who that? The thing about it, it's only the beginning for you, Greg. Yeah. There's so much success. Listen, y'all, we are talking with Greg Tillery. We found out his name is Greg Tillery. Some people call him Greg Tillery. Some people call him G-Till. Some people call him Mr. WeDat. The Chicken Man.
Where the wings at?
Where the wings at? I will give you another title. I'm going to say minister, because, man, you've been preaching to us today. But listen, go follow him on social media. We got to go. Thank y'all for listening to The Blueprint. Make sure that you catch us online, The Blueprint with the BAMM Network.
1407 Canal Street, 4500 Old Tillery Road, and 4905 West Bank Expressway.
He had to get that in. That's that marketing.
All day long.
All right, Greg. Thank you for joining us. This is The Blueprint. We'll see you next time.
This has been a BAMM Network production, produced by BAMM Communications. For other BAMM Network shows, visit www.bammcommunications.com.